subscribe and tap the bell. Twice a day, we bring you the real words of the Stoics, not paraphrased, not softened. Marcus Aurelius never wrote a self-help book. He wrote a private journal, in a war tent, addressed to no one but himself, and it survived by accident for 18 centuries. He was ruling an empire under war and plague when he wrote most of it, which means none of what follows was written by a man with the luxury of a calm, uninterrupted life. What follows are 9 of the clearest principles in it, translated by George Long in 1862, in Marcus's own words, not a modern gloss on what he probably meant, but the actual lines he wrote down for himself, in his own hand, to read again when he needed reminding. The first, understand someone's error before you judge it. When a man has done thee any wrong, immediately consider with what opinion about good or evil he has done wrong. For when thou hast seen this, thou wilt pity him, and wilt neither wonder nor be angry. Marcus isn't asking you to excuse the wrong. He's pointing out that the person doing it almost always believes, however wrongly, that they're pursuing some good, and once you see the mistaken belief underneath the action, wonder and anger both lose most of their fuel. The second follows directly from it: nothing that happens to you is outside the nature of being human. Nothing can happen to any man which is not a human accident, nor to an ox which is not according to the nature of an ox, nor to a vine which is not according to the nature of a vine, nor to a stone which is not proper to a stone. If then there happens to each thing both what is usual and natural, why shouldst thou complain? For the common nature brings nothing which may not be borne by thee. A setback isn't a personal insult from the universe, singling you out. It's simply what happens to people, in the ordinary course of being one, and Marcus is reminding himself that whatever he's currently enduring has already been proven bearable, or he wouldn't still be alive to write about it. The third, stop budgeting your effort like you have unlimited time left to spend it. Do not act as if thou wert going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over thee. While thou livest, while it is in thy power, be good. Marcus wasn't being morbid for effect. He commanded armies through a plague that killed a meaningful fraction of the empire he ruled. Mortality wasn't an abstraction he wrote about, it was the actual calendar he was working against, and he used that pressure deliberately to close the gap between the man he currently was and the man he kept intending to become someday. The fourth, stop auditing what everyone else is doing, saying, or thinking. How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only to what he does himself, that it may be just and pure. Marcus isn't describing indifference to other people here. He's describing where he refused to spend his attention, not on cataloguing his neighbor's opinions or guessing at their motives, a project with no end and no real payoff, but on the one behavior that was actually his to govern, which was his own. The fifth is almost comic in how plainly he states it. Writing about people who irritate him with small, physical flaws, he asks, art thou angry with him whose armpits stink? Art thou angry with him whose mouth smells foul? What good will this anger do thee? He has such a mouth, he has such armpits, it is necessary that such an emanation must come from such things. If a flaw is simply in someone's nature, anger at it accomplishes nothing except disturbing the one mind you're responsible for, your own. The sixth, measure what you have, not what you lack. Think not so much of what thou hast not as of what thou hast, but of the things which thou hast select the best, and then reflect how eagerly they would have been sought, if thou hadst them not. Take the best of what's currently in your possession, and imagine how badly you'd have wanted it before you had it. He adds a warning most people skip when they turn this into a slogan: don't let this gratitude turn into overvaluing what you have either, clinging to it so tightly that you'd be shattered the moment it's gone. The goal is appreciation without attachment, which is a harder balance than either extreme on its own. The seventh, retreat into yourself rather than the world, especially when the world offers nothing worth engaging with. Retire into thyself. The rational principle which rules has this nature, that it is content with itself when it does what is just, and so secures tranquility. This is the same idea he expresses elsewhere as a citadel, a place inside you that outside events can't occupy, because you never surrendered the entrance in the first place. He isn't describing avoidance. He's describing a retreat you can make while still standing in the middle of whatever is happening around you, without needing to physically leave the room. The 8th, confine your attention to the present moment, and nothing else. Wipe out the imagination. Stop the pulling of the strings. Confine thyself to the present. For short commands, stacked on top of each other like a checklist he ran through when his own mind started to spiral. Most suffering, in Marcus's account, isn't caused by what's actually happening in front of you. It's caused by imagination running ahead into a future that hasn't occurred yet and may never occur, or backward into a past that can't be changed no matter how many times you replay it. The 9th, and the one that ties the rest together, stand like a rock in moving water. Be like the promontory against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it. He follows this image with a direct challenge to the instinct to call hardship a misfortune. Unhappy am I because this has happened to me? Not so, but happy am I, though this has happened to me, because I continue free from pain, neither crushed by the present nor fearing the future. Not because nothing bad will happen to you. Things will, the same way waves keep arriving. But the promontory doesn't get swept away by the next one, or the one after that. It simply stands, and lets the water break against it instead of through it. None of these 9 ideas were written as advice for someone else. Marcus was the most powerful man in the world, commanding armies and governing an empire that stretched across 3 continents, and he still needed to write these down over and over, in his own hand, to keep believing them under real pressure. If the most powerful man alive needed to repeat these principles to himself daily just to function through war and plague, that's worth remembering the next time one of them feels too simple, too obvious, or too small to actually matter. He didn't write them because they were easy to follow. He wrote them because he kept failing to follow them, and needed the reminder again the next morning. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We bring you Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and the Stoics they trained, straight from the source, twice a day.